Hi, welcome to Module 5. It's very exciting. We're getting to the finish line. And this is a very important module because it's about you. It's about self-care. So self-care is one of the things that sometimes we as coaches start to overlook. And that is, I would say, a big mistake because you can't continue to give without putting something in. You'll end up feeling tired, feeling depleted, and you can just burn out. And you can't give your best, you can't give 100% to your client if you're not 100% yourself. So it's important for both parts of the equation. It's important for you and it's important for your client that you maintain yourself at the best that you can be. Because when your client comes to see you, they don't want to have you sitting there feeling blah. They need you feeling energized, thinking at your best, and able to help them with their issues. So really make sure you take care of your energy, take care of your needs before your client and after your client. So how do we do that? So let's get started. Sorry, I got hair in my face. So the first thing is it's important to start to think of boundaries as something that's good. I know often in our society, boundaries get a bad rap. They get, people think of them as walls and, negative, get away from me. They think of setting boundaries as creating distance. And yes, you are creating a space for yourself. You're creating a safe space, a personal space for yourself. You are doing that. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's important to do that. There's all kinds of really important things that boundaries can do. One of the most important is it helps you as a coach increase your level of compassion. And that might seem sort of hard to imagine. Like, how does me maintaining my own space, maintaining my own personal rules, keep myself more compassionate, right? How does me taking for myself allow me to be more compassionate towards others? And it's exactly that, is that if you can't give to yourself, then you can't give to another. If you can't hold a boundary for yourself and know that your values, your needs, your wants, your right to respect are important, then you're not going to be able fully to appreciate other people's values, needs, wants, and right for respect. It's just impossible. So you have to be able to develop that for yourself first. You can't love someone else until you love yourself, and you can't honor someone else until you honor yourself. And part of honoring yourself is knowing what's right for you and what's not, and then sticking to it. And sticking to it is really important. So creating a boundary is one thing, and that's a skill that you will need to help your clients do. Creating a boundary is not easy. Many clients come to you and they have been people pleasing, saying yes to everything their whole life. They have not been allowed the luxury of saying no from birth, basically. If they expressed any emotion contrary to the people around them, they perceived, whether it's accurate or not, they perceived that they would be rejected. And it's extremely scary to be rejected. It's one of the most scary things. So that is a huge limiting belief that many people carry, is that I am not enough and I won't be loved if I'm not enough. And so people do so many things to earn love. They will go way, way past their limits to learn love, to earn love. And that's true at work. People are overworkers. People will stay much later. They will work double the amount of time that other people will work. You will see them taking abuse from their boss and their coworkers, being spoken to badly, being paid badly. It's true in relationships, whether it's a parent relationship, child relationship, spousal relationship, boyfriend, girlfriend. People are very often willing to accept very abusive relationship behavior because they're afraid. They're afraid to say no. If they say no, they're afraid, not even consciously, they're afraid that the other person will reject them. And that is intolerable to them. So they're willing to let their beliefs, values, wants, and needs be second. And that leads eventually to resentment, bitterness, anger, depression, either shutting down, acting out, and some very negative and destructive patterns in people's lives. And then they see you. And so often people who are with you really don't know how to set boundaries. It is a foreign language. So that's one of the things that you will help people to do. So you need to learn how to do that yourself as well and stick to them. So in your manual, there's a Dear Man exercise that you go through, and that's a DBT skill. And that's one of your assignments, and we'll talk about that. But it is a really good exercise to work through a way in which to express it in a non-confrontational way, sticking to facts and not heightened emotion and not assumptions, not trying to mind read the other person. So Dear Man is a great way of helping people to set boundaries. Then once the boundaries have been set, I cannot stress how important it is that they are kept, right? So I know I've mentioned this before, but let's take a look at why it's so important. So there's a thing called, what is it called? I can never say the word properly, intermittent reinforcement. And basically, it's like random reinforcement. And it's what a rat will keep trying to get that little pellet out of a container until it dies if the reinforcement is intermittent. A person will sit at a slot machine forever if it's intermittent reinforcement. And a child learns how to tantrum with intermittent reinforcement because it works. It works so well. It is the most powerful type of reinforcement that there is. That is how we get manipulated all the time. And that is how people in relationships get manipulated as well. So in a relationship that's abusive, a person gets manipulated with intermittent reinforcement when their partner sometimes is nice. So that's why, when it's so hard to understand why a battered wife, for example, won't leave her husband or her boyfriend, it's because sometimes they're nice. So, yeah, yesterday he punched me in the face, But today, he's telling me he loves me, and he's giving me flowers, and he tells me I'm beautiful, and he'll never do it again. And he's so nice with the kids today. And, that lasts for a while. That can last for a week or 2 weeks or a month. And then he punches me in the face again. So it's intermittent reinforcement. It's crazy, right? It feels crazy when we talk about it, but it's such a powerful mechanism that we operate on. And, children get it really quickly. So when you see a kid in the grocery store and, all of the candy bars are right at the same level in a grocery store at the cash as a kid that would be either standing there or sitting in the cart, that's not an accident. That's on purpose. That's because they're not trying to sell those candy bars to you and me. They're trying to sell them to those children because they know that the kids are going to whine and whine and whine about it. And sometimes the parent will be able to stick to it, and sometimes they won't. So, no, you can't have it. I told you you can't have it. No, you can't have it. No, you can't have it. No, you can't have it. Oh, shut up. Here, take the candy bar. So now that's locked in. Boom. Beautiful. That kid has learned the lesson. Sometimes I get the candy bar, and they will relentlessly keep that lesson. And so every time they go to the grocery store and they're in that line and they're at that candy bar level, guess what mom and dad can expect is a repeat whine session or a repeat down on the floor tantrum session, because they just used the most powerful reinforcement tool known to mankind. They taught them that sometimes they're going to get it. So it's worth it to try. It's worth it. That's how casinos function. That's how lotteries function. That's how abusive relationships function. And that's how kids get candy. So intermittent reinforcement. So when you're teaching your client how to set a boundary, you need to also keep in mind that there's going to be a consequence if they can't keep the boundary. And prepare them for that. Prepare them that there's going to be a consequence. And remember, no one's perfect, right? No one's perfect. So I know we talked about this a little bit before, but it's so important because you also need to keep boundaries, right? You need to set boundaries. You need to set boundaries. So when you have a client who you have said, I am charging you for the next missed appointment, and you don't charge them for the next missed appointment, guess what you have just done? You have intermittently reinforced that, maybe she means it, maybe she doesn't. So you have to keep your boundary, right? Sometimes she keeps it, sometimes she doesn't. What you say has to be what you mean. So be really clear in what is important to you and then stick to it. If it's not important to you, then convey that. I don't really care about this so much. I'd like it, doesn't really matter. This is a limit. This is a boundary. This we can work together with. This is my line. Okay? I will not tolerate this language. I will not tolerate this behavior. I will not tolerate this missing appointments. I will not tolerate you coming in late. I will not tolerate blah. Okay? So not paying me, right? So that's something that happens too, just a heads up, is that sometimes you will go through your session and the client will say, can I pay you later? Sure. Maybe that's okay with you. Maybe it's not. What did you set up? Did you set up that they could pay you later? Or did you set up that all payment needs to be made on the day of the session? Well, then that is the day of the session. So no, I prefer that you pay me now. And if that's an issue in future, please let me know ahead of time. Right? You just gave them a service. You don't go to McDonald's, eat your food, and then say, hey, can I pay you later? You pay for your stuff. You pay. And it's the same with anything, right? You don't go anywhere and expect to watch the movie and then maybe pay later. To go eat your meal and then come back in a couple days and pay. So if you've made that arrangement with someone that I'm going to invoice you and then you can pay me, that's fine. And actually, that's what I usually do. I don't actually expect payment on the day. If they do, awesome. I usually invoice people. That's my preference. So that's up to me, but I give a certain number of days when I expect my payment, and if I don't get that payment, then I send a reminder, and if I don't get that payment, then I'm not going to keep that client, because I don't work for free for everyone. So there are some people that I will reduce my rate significantly, or if, at some points, I have had one client so far anyway, who I just didn't charge because, pro bono is my choice. But it's not because she decided not to pay. It was all agreed in advance. So that is a really important point. So make sure that you keep your boundaries. So you're always modeling for your client, geez, it's getting dark in here. You're modeling for your client what it is that you're doing, right? You need to say and do the things that you're teaching. So if you're saying, boundaries are really important, you need to keep your boundaries, and you're letting them walk all over you, then that's not a clear message, right? Okay, so boundaries. What else? Yes. Oh, energy. Yeah, energy. So let's talk about energy in just 1 second. Hey, hi, I'm back. Just wanted to get a little late. So, hello, welcome back. We're going to talk about energy. And I love talking about energy. So I really like talking about energy for a couple of reasons. One, I guess, because that used to be my thing in a different world, in a different life. So I used to work in radiation safety. So radiation energy is something I've talked about for years and years from a different type of way. I mean, I talked about it from protecting yourself from radiation. However, energy is not just radiation. Energy is not just electricity. Energy is not just heat. Energy is everything. Everything. Every single thing in the universe is held together and made up of energy, including you and me. Everything. So energy is a big topic because it's a big part of our lives. It is our life. It is something that we are usually walking around completely oblivious of. We don't pay any attention to our energy. We talk in terms of how we feel, and we're really relating that to how we physically feel. We talk about it in terms of aches and pains in our body, how we feel emotionally, and often we're completely unaware of how much we are affected by the energy in our surroundings, in ourselves, and in the people in our lives. So it's something to really be aware of, because whenever you're in interaction with people, you are in interaction with their energy. You're affecting them and they're affecting you, and they're affecting your whole space. So really key to keep it in mind. We're not just what you see, right? What you see is not what you get. So we, looking out right now into here, you see nothing, right? You see nothing, but there's not nothing. There's millions and billions of atoms right here. We just don't see it, right? Don't see it. Nothing. Don't feel it. Don't see it. Don't feel it. Don't smell it. Don't hear it. Nothing. Nothing. But it's there. Okay? We know it's there. We know that there's dust particles and that the air itself is made up of billions and billions and billions and billions of atoms. So we know that it's there. We know that there's energy coming from up above, from the sun, from the cosmos. We know that there's energy coming from the ground, terrestrial energy. We know that. So we know it's there, even though we don't see it. We know that in our brain we have energy that we can measure. If we put electrodes on our brain, we just don't see it. We know that we put electrodes on our heart. We have to put that on there so that we can see the energy there. We know that we are made up of that, but we don't see it. So all we see is this, right? We see our physical body, but there are other parts of us that we don't see. We don't see. I don't see. Now, some people I believe, and they believe, have the ability to see more than the physical body. So some people believe that they can see other levels of our bodies, that we don't have just one body. The physical body is just one body, that we also have other layers. We have an etheric layer, we have an emotional layer, we have a mental layer, we have a spiritual layer, we have an auric layer, and it goes on and on. Actually, we have many layers of who we are, and each layer kind of extends further and further out, and each layer has a certain frequency or vibration to it that interacts in the universe, just like, you know, when we're trying to make our computer work, get Wi-Fi, it has a signal and it has to be able to communicate with something, so it has to be received and transmitted. Well, so do we, right? So do we, with the energy from the universe. So there's, by the time we actually become aware that we are feeling in our physical body bad, whatever that means, whether we're feeling migraines or backaches or tired or just achy or irritable in our emotional body or restless, unable to sleep, all of those things, by the time we're feeling and aware of those things, other things have already been affected. So it's already gone through all of these other things. So energy is also, every word, thought, event, experience holds energy. It is energy. So we have to be able to process that energy. And if when it's coming in, it can't get processed properly, there's a disturbance. It's not, it's dysfunctional because we don't know how to deal with it. We perceive it in some sort of negative way, and then we don't know what to do with that. That energy gets stored and it creates this negativity. It creates a problem within us. It creates a problem within one part of us. And if we don't clear it in that part, it gets further and further and further and further and further down until finally it gets to our physical body. So by then, it's a much bigger problem, much harder to deal with problem. So it's just like, let's say I cut my finger. I was doing my dinner, making dinner, I'm chopping all these vegetables, and geez, I cut my finger. I cut my finger and I just ignore it. I don't wash it under the sink. I don't put a Band-Aid on it. I don't disinfect it in any way whatsoever. I just go, whatever, I cut my finger. And I continue on chopping everything. I go pick up the chicken with it. Now I got chicken guts and stuff on my hand, and the bacteria from the chicken gets in there, but I just ignore it. And I move on and I continue with my food preparation, and I go about my business. And the next day, I'm like, something with my hand, but I don't really pay attention. And I go on and on and on. And it gets worse and worse and worse. And that would be like the external stimuli is the cut. It goes into my first layer, which would be my spiritual body. And then from there, and it goes, right? And then I ignore it. And it goes to the next layer, which would be my emotional body. And I ignore it. It gets more and deeper, and as I continue to ignore it, and more stuff gets piled in, and more things get kind of added to it, it gets more infected, and it continues down further and goes to my mental body. So now I'm actually not just feeling, I'm thinking about it a lot, right? Now it's getting into my thoughts. It's getting into my thoughts, creating how I think about the world, how I think about myself, how I think about everything I do, and infecting that. So it's infected me spiritually, it's infected me emotionally, it's infected me mentally. Okay, and then finally, because I've done nothing about it, finally, my finger is throbbing, my finger is red, inflamed, and now I go, oh, I can see I have a problem. I need to do something about that. I'm going to the doctor. So I go to the doctor because I have noticed I have a physical pain. So it goes spiritual, something's not right, but I don't feel it. I just comes in, and it is against my values, against my soul self, out of alignment with who I am, and then it affects my emotional body. Doesn't have a feeling, doesn't feel quite right. Then it goes to my mental body, and I have thoughts start to happen, and I ignore them, and I ignore them, and I ignore them, and then eventually it goes to my physical body, and I am unwell. And that's the progression. Okay, that's the progression. So we have a lot of opportunity to intervene in our health, in our well-being, in our self-care. And you will have a lot of opportunity to notice, if you're paying attention, when something happens that you're like, this doesn't feel right. So if something is happening out of alignment with you, your values, your needs, your wants with you, then you will notice it if you're paying attention. That's the important part, right? You got to pay attention. So you need to practice mindfulness of that. So the way you practice mindfulness of your spiritual body is through mindful practices and meditation. So you don't just tell your clients to be mindful and meditate. You need to be mindful and meditate. And I know that you are doing that, right? You didn't get this far without being mindful and meditating. So it's important though that you continue to do that. And sometimes when people become a life coach, now they think, okay, I'm this now. I'm here and I don't have to do these things anymore, right? I'm done with that. No, you're not done with that. You're never done with that. You need to always be taking care of your spiritual body. In comes this external or internal, your perception has created something, so internal or external stimuli that is out of alignment, and you need to be able to notice that so that you can take care of it, right? Take care of it. If you miss it there, you need to be aware of your feeling, aware of how you feel. So that's a later exercise we'll talk about when you're triggered, and that is becoming really aware of your feelings. Okay, and we'll talk about that a bit more when we get to that point. And your thoughts, right? Your feelings and your thoughts. And be able to deal with those and do actions regarding those. And physical. So when you are having things, if you are getting headaches, if you are tired, if you are sleepless, if you are not eating properly, then all of those things are signals to you that these areas need attention, right? Your spiritual, your emotional, your mental bodies have been neglected and need attention if you're physically feeling unwell. So yeah, it might be that you need to have something checked by the doctor. Don't ever assume that if there's something, you have chest pain, go and get it looked at, right? If you have a lump, go and get it checked. At the same time, take care of your spiritual, emotional, and mental bodies because they are creating a physical problem. Okay, so the two things can go hand in hand. And if you are not taking care of one, then it's going to lead to something in the next. And how do you do that, right? How do you, okay, I noticed it. I've been meditating and I notice I am uncomfortable. I know I am uncomfortable. I know something keeps coming up for me and I need to clear it. I know that I have this feeling that there's a block in this area. I know I've noticed I have this mental belief that keeps coming to the surface. A new limiting belief has come to my awareness. So what do I do with it, right? I need to clear my energy. The energy needs to be released. So there's ways to do that. And visualization and meditation are really important ways, again, to do it. So some meditations are to become aware mindfully, and some are to actually clear, to take that action and clear the energy completely. I have on YouTube a number of chakra meditations that are, chakras are your energy centers, and We don't spend, there's a lot more material about chakras in your manual, and I'm not going to spend a ton of time talking about it in this video, but I do have more videos about it on, like I said, on YouTube, and we can talk more about it in person. But this is not a course on chakras. This is a life coaching course, so I'm not going to go into it that much. I just want you to be aware that you can clear your own energy and that your energy can get stuck and blocked. And your chakras are the things that need to keep moving. They need to keep moving because that's what moves the energy through your body. So from your crown all the way to your root, you've got this chakra system through your body that the wheels need to keep spinning so that the energy can flow freely. So if you are slouching, you can't breathe properly, and you also can't have your energy flow properly. So that's important too. When you're meditating, have a nice straight line. And there's really focused meditations and visualizations depending on what it is that needs to be cleared. So that's why I'm not going to go through right now, because it just depends. Depends on what it is. Is it to do with security? Are you feeling unsafe? Is it to do with finances? Are you feeling like you're never going to be abundant? Is it to do with creativity? Is it to do with your sense of willpower or sense of actualization? Is it to do with connection to your higher power? What is it to do with? What is it? And then from there, you can be really specific in the visualization and open your own chakra. Okay? So maybe it's something to do with your heart chakra, your love center, and your emotional relationship to yourself. So if you're having trouble giving yourself permission to do self-care, then maybe your heart chakra needs some more attention. And there's meditation for that. So that's how you take care of that aspect of it. So clearing yourself, okay? And we can really be very sensitive to the energy of other people. And everyone is different in that. Everyone is also sensitive on some level. Like there's a scale, right? So some people will say that they're, this person's insensitive, but they're not insensitive. They're just maybe less sensitive, like a lot less sensitive than the next person. And maybe that's because it's been unsafe for them, or maybe because they haven't practiced or they've shut down. But for whatever reason, they are not able to respond to someone else or feel someone else's energy. Other people, it's the opposite. They're like hypersensitive. They're highly empathic, and they're like the blow in the wind. So if one person feels sad, they feel sad. If some person is happy, they feel happy. And they get so easily thrown off course, affected by someone else's energy. And we all can be affected. Like, you know what it's like if you're in let's say you're at a party and someone comes in and they're like the life of the party. They haven't even said a word yet. And in they come and everyone is like, ah, right? It lifts the room. Or in comes a person and maybe you've never even met them before. Never met them, never laid eyes on them. They walk in the door and the whole room just goes, ugh, right? It's their vibration is way lower. They're vibrating at a much lower frequency and their energy is just blah. So when you're a higher level frequency, you are uncomfortable with a lower level frequency. And you will notice that as you start to get more and more connected with your higher self, as you start to get more and more clear of whatever garbage baggage you've been holding on to, your frequency will rise. and you will have less comfort level around lower frequencies, which is fine because you really need to align with higher frequency. That's the direction you want to go, right? If you want to be successful, if you want to be happy, if you want to be light, if you want to admit light, then move in the direction that you want to go. And that's the direction that those frequencies are at. So, you know, spend time there. You want to be in successful company. You want to be successful, then be in successful company. So there's nothing wrong with that, of feeling uncomfortable in lower level frequency, except sometimes they may be in your family or in, you know, your partner or somewhere where you really can't escape. That becomes more challenging. Good news is, if you're up here, often people will they'll raise their frequency, which is amazing, right? So you can really inspire people. When your energy, it doesn't mean you're perky, it doesn't mean that. Just when your energy is higher, because you're clear, you've done your work and you've cleared your energy, your frequency is higher, someone else is going to raise, right? That's awesome. So you can, though, be affected if you spend too much time without taking care of yourself. So it's not their responsibility to make you feel better. If you're in the situation where you are highly empathic and you really do sense other people's energies, you take on other people's energies, and you're around people, and your clients, a lot of clients are going to come with low vibration. You're around people who have a low vibration, and you find yourself like feeling depleted because you're taking that on, then it's up to you to be aware of that, mindful of that, and clear that energy, right? Clear it. You can do something, and there's a video that is on YouTube, and I will give you a link to it at the end of this when I send you information. And it is to give yourself like a bubble around yourself. So you visualize yourself, if you start to feel like that, like someone is like encroaching, and you start to feel like they're grasping, basically grasping at your energy, and you can feel that. You can actually, if you're very empathic, you can actually feel like it's like their cord coming to get your cord. They're trying to grasp your energy. You can surround yourself in just a nice bubble and fill it with white light. So you're not doing anything to them. You're just keeping yourself and your energy filled with positivity. So there's no reason for you to become depleted if you're taking care of yourself. Draw your energy up from Mother Earth. Ground yourself. Fill yourself, right? You don't have to give your energy away. Don't give it away. Share Mother Earth's energy with your clients. You don't need to share your energy. Keep your energy. Share Mother Earth's energy with your clients. Okay? That's the white light that they fill with, not you. Have them fill with light of the universe, light of love, light of the divine, not you. Okay? And clearing of the area. So also, there can be a lot of negative, toxic, difficult stuff that gets released in a session. So one of the things that people are doing with you is they're releasing their negative energy. They are hopefully able to learn exactly what we're talking about. You're going to do it for yourself before your session and after a session and anytime you need it. And like every day, right? Every day every single day we need to take care of our emotional body. Every day we need to take care of our emotional body. And that means being able to connect, give ourselves what we need, and release what we do not. And so that's happening for ourselves as a daily practice. That's what we're teaching our clients to do, which means you're teaching them to do it in your space, right? So when they are releasing their negative energy in your space, then you're going to want to clear your space. I want to clear my space of negative energy. Often, I used to, I don't anymore, use my home. So I use my home much less. And I was very selective on people that I would use my home with. Because there is that negative aspect, you know, they're releasing that into my home. So I have to be able to clear it first, clear it after. And so I use a few different things to clear negative energy from my home. I use Palo Santo sticks, and I personally love the smell of them. And some people don't. And I've heard various things about the availability of those and whether or not they're being forested too much. So I heard that, and then the person that supplies it for me says that they source it ethically and that it's fine. So I go with that. I trust her. I believe that she's an ethical person, and so I'm okay with it. You do what feels comfortable with that, right? So find out for yourself what you're comfortable with. I love the smell, so I use that, and it is something you don't have to open a window for it. You don't have to open a door. It's not. It's creating positive energy. So it's like filling the space with positive energy. So I love that. So I like to do that before a session to create a positive energy in the space. And then after, I also like to use sage. So there's all kinds of sage. White sage, there's sage with mugwort, there's sage with lavender, there's sage with like everything. So find one, if you like sage, find one that you like, and they all have different properties. So you can do some research on which one is for which. Find one that you like the smell of and one that you like the properties of. But for sage, you should open a window, because for sage, when you're smudging with sage, that's what it's called, smudging, you're actually clearing the negative energy out. So when you're clearing the negative energy out, you want it to go out, right? So you want it to go somewhere. So open a door, open a window, and actually let it go. So you just light the smudge or light the sage. I also like to, as I light it, just let it come over me. So I light it and move it over myself. Usually 3 times because it's kind of a ritualistic thing. And then I just move around my house with it. So not just the space that we were in, but the whole house. And basically every little nook and cranny, all the corners, the doorway, the whole house. And allow negative energy to be released, positive energy to take its place. I also like the smell of it, so it's helpful that I do. Those are what I really like to do. I like to burn incense sometimes and light candles sometimes, but those are the practices that I use to clear my space. I also have used for sort of bigger clearings, something called Esfahan, which you have to use every day for 7 days. And it is more to do with kind of a generational clearing. So it's more like if something has, it's going to sound kind of strange, but if you're carrying forward with you, I'm trying to think of the right word, a debt, say, from someone else. So maybe an issue from your mother, your grandmother, grandfather, great grandfather, previous life situation, whatever. You're carrying that forward into your life now. You want to clear that. You use Asfahan, and that you burn it every day for 7 days. And it's like pop rocks. Kind of cool when it burns. So there's a way to do it. And if that's something that, as we move through our time together, if that's something that you want to do, if you're interested in doing, I don't think we did, if you're interested in doing, that I will explain further. And I believe I have a video of posting of that somewhere as well, so I can share that with you too. And that you can get that stuff at, you know, gem stores, places where you would buy incense, places where you would buy crystals, things like that. That's where you get those sorts of things. There's also a place, her name is Handmade by Sonia is the name of the business, and she made a gorgeous feather for me, and we'll talk about that in person, but it's gorgeous, and it's something that I use to you know, move the smoke around with the smudging, so it's beautiful. I will send you some information about that. So, right, okay. Now, there's some information on staying in love, stay out of judgment. That may sound easier said than done, because we all think that we are non-judgmental, and we are all judgmental. We just don't think we are. We may be very cool with a lot of things and very loving people. In fact, I know we are. And still, we will have things come up that will trigger our judgment, for sure. And one of the things about finding people, finding clients who are like ourselves, which does happen, is that often they also have the same issues. So it can be sometimes like you're looking in a mirror when you're with a client and they're telling you about their issues, their hurts, their wounds, their pains, and it can bring up for you some things that were yours, right? Maybe you were working through them, maybe you have worked through them, and maybe you thought you worked through them, and now there they are in your face. And so if they are not at the same place as you, you may be judgmental, right? Because you may still have judgment of yourself. That's what that is. That's judgment of you. So just be aware of that. You may also find that there are people that are very different than you. And their values, we've talked about this a lot, so their model of the world is different, and their values are very different than yours. And they are maybe making choices that are completely opposite to what you would want for yourself. And yet, that's their choice. And so it is maybe going to be difficult to stay out of judgment in some of those areas, especially when you know that it is harmful for them, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, or physically. And, you know, people do continue to do things that are. People don't always make the right decisions for their spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical health. And so that's their right to do that. And so you're there not to judge them. And that can sometimes be difficult. So, you know, if you find yourself, you know, saying should, that's a judgment word, right? Should is a judgment word. They should be able to is a judgment word. If I can do this, they should. Anyone should. Everyone should. It's just common sense that. Why can't they? Those are all judgment types of thoughts. So really be aware of that. And there's some NLP presuppositions which are really important that you hold as a coach. I believe that this is my belief, that it's important that you hold these dear to your heart and close to your heart as a coach. And they will help you stay out of judgment. So if you are finding that you're having some thoughts come up, you question yourself, are they in conflict with any of these? And if they are, their judgment. So I'm going to read them, go through them. So respect the other person's model of the world. We've talked about that. Evaluate behavior and change based on ecology, and we have talked about that. So that is, are they doing the right thing for them, for their family, for the community? Okay. And evaluate your behavior also based on that. Resistance in a client is a sign of lack of rapport. So, excuse me, we've talked about rapport a lot. We talked about resistance a little bit. If you find that a client is resistant to an idea, a strategy, homework, then take a look at yourself. Try not to be judging the client. Take a look at yourself. What is it that you are not doing that, or are doing, that is creating a lack of trust there? What can you do differently so that they are comfortable with the assignment, the homework, and the exercise? There's something they're not comfortable with. If they were comfortable with it, if they were comfortable with you, they would do it. They would, maybe, right? So check it out. People are not their behaviors. People are not their behaviors. So you will be able to choose who your clients are, and you may not choose to work with sex offenders. You may not choose to work with pedophiles. You may not choose to work with wife abusers. You may not choose to work with all kinds of different people. However, if you are choosing to work with anybody, you are going to choose to work with people who have behaviors that are not enhancing their life and not working for them. And I know I just mentioned some extremely extreme cases. I did that because these principles are built around people who have worked with psychiatrists, psychologists, psychotherapists, who have worked with child abusers, sex offenders, wife beaters, and they have had to create for themselves the framework that is really clear that these people are not their behavior. It's the behavior that's reprehensible. The people are people. Everyone is born in love and light, and everyone is capable of good and bad. And the behavior is what needs to be corrected and is broken. The person is not broken. The person is still in love and light. And so that may be challenging. Certainly would be for me, to be perfectly honest. I don't choose to work in that situation with sex offenders, child abusers, and wife beaters. Having said that, there have been lots of stories that come up that are very difficult to hear. And the same rule will always apply. Everyone is doing the best they can with the resources they have available. Yeah, and that's a hard one, and that's they're all hard, really, to some degree. People are doing the best they can with the resources they have available. So it is easy to judge and say, why would they do that? How couldn't they have done it this way? And remember that what you're looking at is you're looking at it from now. What they were dealing with was yesterday, or a year ago, or 10 years ago. And who they are now is not the same person as any of those other stories. So what they have available as far as resources now, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and physically, is different. They may not have had any of those things available then. So whatever they had, they used. If they didn't have it, they couldn't use it. And I'll give you an example for myself. I struggled when I left my ex-husband. I struggled for years with guilt, with huge guilt, because my ex-husband is an alcoholic, and my kids still went back and forth because it was important to me for my own childhood issues that he was still present in their lives as a dad, because I didn't have one. So it was so important to me that they had a dad figure. And I didn't really even realize how unhealthy that was, because they were totally unsupervised when they were with him. And he wasn't able to provide the amount of supervision that children need. So they were not properly cared for. And in hindsight, I am aware of that. So in hindsight, I went through years of guilt, just torment, horrible torment of how could I have been so stupid, blind, irresponsible, negligent, bad parent, terrible mother. And it took me a lot of work with my own people to get through that. And thankfully, they were able to teach me this. They held this belief and able to teach me that I was working with the resources and doing the best that I could at the time. I had no support from anybody, and I was in a place spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and physically where I was still under all of my limiting beliefs, and I didn't know any better. And when I knew better, I did better. As soon as I knew better, I did better. And my children and I have talked about it, both of my children and I, and they don't think anything of it. It was me that thinks a lot of it. So it's, I really do appreciate this, all of these, actually, all of them, so much because I've been on the other end. I have done the hard work in therapy and coaching, and I know how judgmental clients can be of themselves. The last thing they need is a judgmental coach. They need you always to be in love and not judgment. And you need that too. And that's why this is in this module, because you cannot take care of yourself and be the best you if you are in judgment. You just can't. So stay in love means accepting these principles. Calibrate on behavior. Calibrate on behavior. So that means the proof is in the pudding, and they don't just, and you too, don't just talk the talk, they walk the walk. So it's fine to have a breakthrough in session. Then what happens? Then what happens? Do they live it? That's success. Okay? So it's behavior that indicates success, not words, actions. And what you do matters, not what you say, what you do. Not what they say, what they do. The map is not the territory. That's a mistake in your book. Cross that out. It says the map is the territory. It should say the map is not the territory. And what that means is words are just labels. And if I said in the very first module, if I say beach and you say beach, what beach? What beach are you seeing? What beach am I seeing? So it's just a label, and we don't know if we're seeing the same thing. So we have to check. Get a repeat back. Like, did you hear the same thing as me? Here's what I heard you say. Do I have that right? Here's what I'm saying to you. Do you see what I'm saying? Right? Can you explain that to me? Is it clear to you? Okay, so really make sure you're on the same page. It's important. You oversee your mind and therefore the results. So important that you remember you're in charge of your mind. So no one else gets to make sure that you stay in love and not judgment. Just you. No one else gets to do anything for your client except them. No one else gets to do anything for you except you. Really important. People have all the resources they need to achieve the desired outcomes. Yes, they do. So there's no excuses. Okay? No excuses. not for you and not for them. You have everything you need. If you want it, you will achieve it. It may take some time, and it may need some creativity. It may take some steps, but if you want it, you will achieve it. 100%. And so will anybody else. Back to my glasses. All procedures should increase wholeness. And that's to do with parts integration too. So we'll talk more about that. I think we will have done parts integration. There's only feedback. So there's no failure here. There's only feedback. So if something didn't go well, it's not a disaster. It's not the end of the world. Just reevaluate and try it again. Adjust and try it again. There's lessons to learn. You are going to make mistakes. You're going to not have great sessions, and that's okay. And some of your greatest sessions, what you consider to be your greatest sessions, so you guys may have like a fantastic discussion, like you spend the whole hour laughing and talking, it's great, you bonded and everybody's happy. That might be a horrible session, because what did you achieve? Nothing. So you're not there to be their friend for the session. You're there to help them achieve something for the session. So that, in hindsight, feedback on that would be not a good session. So be willing to do self-reflection after every session and take the feedback. The meaning of communication is the response you get. So if they didn't understand you, it wasn't effective. And the law of requisite variety. I like this one because what it means is the most flexible person wins. Not the most, flexible at yoga. The most flexible, creative person wins. So I like to have a lot of variety in my toolkit. And if something's not going the way I would like it to go, that's okay. If I know that this is where we need to get to, and I had planned this direction and it's not working, then I need to be able to switch gears and say, okay, let's try this. And if that doesn't work, oh, well, you know what? I got something else up my sleeve. There needs to be a lot of different options to try. And one last one. All procedures should be designed to increase choice. Yes, choice. You don't tell them what to do. You don't think for them. They choose. Hi. Okay. There's a little break there, and now we're back. So we're just going to finish off Module 5. And one of the things that I want to just continue with is the idea of being able to stay in love, in non-judgment, and how you do that. And one of the things to remember is that you are going to get triggered. You're going to have judgments. We've already talked about that. And to be able to recognize it, deal with it, and that you're going to get triggered. You have your own issues that you've been working through. Everyone does. And everyone has different layers that they're going to go. So even if you think that you've accomplished everything you wanted to do with your exploration into your inner work, you're going to be surprised to find out, or maybe not, that you're not done. You can get to a place where you're really feeling comfortable, you're feeling great, you're really feeling good, evolved, connected in your life for a while, and that's great. And then the universe is going to give you another opportunity to go even deeper. And that's what I like to think of it as. It doesn't necessarily feel like that at the time. It sometimes feels like the universe is kicking you in the gut, but it is another opportunity to go to that next layer of evolution for yourself. And how that happens is you get triggered. So you get poked in that sensitive spot, that place that hasn't healed yet. And when we are working with a lot of different people, we're going to find that there's two different opposites. So one, we have people that are going to be gravitating towards us and brought to us that are like us. And sometimes you make such a good connection with these people and they're like, oh my God, I love working with these people. They're just like my person and they're just like me, which is great, except chances are they also have a lot of the same issues as you. And when you're sitting in the chair opposite them, you may be sitting there hearing the same issues that you've dealt with, that you've struggled with in your own life. And they may not even have come to the surface before. They may be things that have been distorted or deleted from your awareness. And now you're hearing them from a different place in your life. You're hearing them from a readiness in your life, and you're hearing them from a different perspective. And so they get through and they poke at that sensitive place in you, and you can get triggered. So you can have emotions start to arise in a session, not judgment, but other emotions, fear, anger, those are common, fear, anger, just irrational feelings about what's happening in that session. Loneliness, sadness, disappointment, waves of emotion can come over you in the middle of a session or after a session based on what has been triggered in that session, because the things are just so familiar. They're you, right? They're your issues. And so you don't want that to be what's influencing your work with that client. They're not there to help you work through your issues, although they do help you work through your issues. That's why it is such a gift to do this work, because although, people will tell you all the time, thank you so much. It is a gift that they're giving you as well. You get such a gift from the process and from people's energy and from their willingness to share with you. So let them know sometimes, right? I appreciate you too. But it will bring stuff up. The other side of the coin is that you'll be dealing with people who are totally different. And that can bring up issues too, right? And we've talked about that part. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that part. But this part where you're sitting there and you're hearing things that are triggering you, then what do you do with it? So what do you do with it in the session is you need to be able to use your own skills, do your own work so that you're ready. So that's the whole point of anybody doing these things on a daily basis, on a regular basis, and you included. So you need to be able to be mindful, meditating, grounded on a regular basis so that when something does come up that is triggering, that isn't just your normal routine, that really touches a sensitive spot, you're prepared and you know what to do. It kicks in. And because in that moment, you're not going to be able to think it through. You're going to go into an automatic response, just like everybody else goes into an automatic response. And you're going to have the same limbic system try and protect you. So you can start to get into that place where you're also incapacitated, hijacked by your emotion, unless you catch it quickly. So you got to be practicing your skills, and then in that moment, ground yourself. So do your mindfulness practices. So notice what's happening. So you have to be really good at that already. So pay attention now to what's happening. Pay attention to whenever you notice a change in your body. Pay attention to where that change is happening in your body. What does it feel like? What does it attach to as a label? Is it fear? Is it disappointment? Is it sadness? Is it irritation? Is it frustration? Is it anger? What is it that you're feeling? Anxiety. Take a good inventory and breathe. Breathe into that place. Breathe into that place and use your skills. So do that in the moment. Ground your feet into the floor and connect to the energy of Mother Earth. Right? So all those same things that you do when you're trying to maintain your own energy, you're going to do when you're trying to maintain your balance emotionally. You're trying to maintain regulation and wise mind. You don't want to be in emotion mind when you are trying to help a client. You don't want to be in logical mind where you're just shut off and just listening as a robot. You don't want to be in emotion mind where you're like spinning out of control and you want to sit and cry in front of them. That doesn't help either. You want to be in wise mind. So to do that, use your skills. That's in the moment. After the fact, analyze it. Analyze it. So what was the triggering event? What was happening? What did you hear? What did you see? What did you feel? What triggered that response? Really get to know what it is that's happening for you. And then what was your immediate reaction? So you experienced it. Now remember it. Write it down. What was it? And how did you behave? So did you shut down? Did you snap at the person? Did you shut them down? I don't want to talk about it. Or did you ground, breathe, use your skills? What did you do? And then afterwards, think about it from a place of, was that actually an appropriate response? So if I was feeling scared in that moment, was it appropriate for me to be scared? Were they actually threatening? Was it a familiar response? Yes, it was triggered because I was feeling the familiarity to something that was bringing up an old issue, a sensitive issue for myself. Fair enough. And is it also something that is inappropriate in this session? Is it something I need to address further? Okay, yes, that's my stuff. And it's also not appropriate for you to speak in that way, right? So is there a boundary I need to set here? Or is it not that at all? And is it just strictly me that needs to do the work? They were not inappropriate at all. It was just me being totally triggered and in my own mind, in my own past, in my own issue, right? And then how will I do it differently? Is there something that I can learn from this? Always, is there something I can learn from this? Maybe yes, maybe no. Usually yes. Usually yes. There's usually a way that you will be able to find something that you can get more comfort from, more learning from, that can help you in the next go round, the next situation. And so I'm going to ask you to start to do this now. Start to do it now so that when you're sitting in the chair in front of a client, you're not figuring out how to do it then. So you have the sheets in your manual. I gave you 2 weeks worth. So try and pay attention for 2 weeks. What is triggering you? So throughout the day, we get triggered a lot, right? We do. You know, you can think somebody in line is triggering us, our partner is triggering us, you know, something we saw on television might trigger us. really pay attention. What is it that's making me feel something uncomfortable? And then what is that reaction that I'm having? And label it. Not just I'm feeling uncomfortable and I'm triggered. What is it? Get good at naming your emotions. And then how did you respond? What was your behavior when you felt like that? Did you shut down? Did you lash out? Did you cry? Did you hide? Avoid? What was your behavior? And then were you accurate in your perception? Was there a reason to be afraid, sad, angry, whatever it was that you were feeling in those moments? And what did you do? And what can you do differently if that's required? So take 2 weeks and keep track of your triggering behavior. Keep track of that. It's a trigger diary. And this will be an invaluable tool that you use with your clients so that they can get in touch with their own emotions, because we all need to do this. We all need to get in touch with our emotions. You, as a coach, need to take care of yours. Really important to take care of your emotions, to stay in love with yourself and others. The next thing, to take care of yourself, think of some things you can do. Things you can do to nurture yourself and nourish yourself. So look at your life right now and think of areas that maybe are a little lacking. So is it where your nutrition is, or your sleep patterns are, or any other aspects of your life? So is there some place that you know, your physical fitness, some aspect of your life that you know, I'm really not taking care of myself in that area? I know I'm not. I know I'm not taking care of my mental health. I know I'm not taking care of my spiritual health. I know I'm not taking care of my physical health. Where is it that you know that you are neglecting yourself? And then make a conscious effort to take 2 steps this week to improve that, right? And then do it. Do it. Think ahead. What are the things that are going to be a problem for me to do that? Write those down and then see what you can do to eliminate those problems. And then do the things. Do the things that you know you need to do. And start to get conscious about being happy. We kind of expect that we're just going to get happy, and we have to create happy for ourselves. It is our responsibility to create our own happiness. And in order to do that, we need to be conscious of what makes us happy. And you know that you're going to need to do this with your clients. You're going to need to ask your clients to do this, to take responsibility for making themselves happy. And so you need to model that. And the way to start is to create your own happy list. So start, if you have already got one on the go, awesome. Pull it out and use that. And if it is getting a little dusty, then review it and see if it's still relevant for you. If you haven't got one, if you've lost it, or you forget about it, whatever, then start again. Start a happy list, start a pleasure list, and take those moments in your life that you know make you happy and put them on the list. Just start making a list. If there's moments that you don't know, that's where your mindfulness skill comes in, and you start to create those things for yourself. You pay attention. Like I said in an earlier part of this course, is a walk in the sun something that's going to make your list? Is sipping a nice cup of tea going to make your list? Is having a piece of chocolate going to make your list? You'll know if they make you happy if you've been paying attention mindfully to the experience. So really be mindful of the things that you're doing and see, what do I feel while I'm doing them? And if joy, happiness, excitement, lightness are things that you're feeling, then put them on the happy list. So you're going to grow a really long list of things, and those lists can become samples for your client if they're stuck. So it's nice if they can do it themselves, and sometimes they can't. So you can give them a sample, a template to work from if they get stuck. And a good place to start is from your own experience. All right. And we have made it to the end of Module 5. So that's exciting because that means that you have one more module to do. So when you have had a chance to do your assignments, and I think there are a few assignments in this module, I'm pretty sure. Let me just check. I know there are. Self-care assignments. One of them is your trigger list, your trigger 2 weeks worth. Another is to create your happy list. And that's what you look back at the module and do surf the wave, which is a nice, really nice mindfulness exercise, and then write a paragraph about your experience with it. So I'm looking forward to hearing about that. And then lead me through a body scan meditation. So you're going to write your first meditation. That is fantastic. And I'm looking forward to that. So you're going to write out the script and then lead me through a meditation. And you have tons to draw from, but make it your own. Make it something that would make you feel relaxed and connected to your body. And it doesn't have to be long. It could be 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes. It can be however long you want. It could be half an hour. It doesn't matter to me. I will be happy to do the meditation however long you would like it to be. And you're going to lead me through a meditation, a body scan meditation. Okay, so you've got a lot of work to do, and very relevant work. Things that you're going to do with any and every client that you have. Okay, so good luck. Remember, reach out, questions, any concerns, if you need some assistance, whatever. I am always here for you. I am available, and don't hesitate to reach out. And remember to be writing in your coaching journal and drawing on your intuition and just letting your inspiration flow. Let the universe flow through you. Okay? I love you, and I will talk to you soon.